If you think that being on Ozempic is going to be your cure, you're wrong. It's not, especially when you come off of it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Dr. Ben Alilin. I'm here in Orlando, Florida. I'm a practicing family physician for the past 20 years. I've been working with many people with many conditions, and I found that obesity is their main issue. That is the centerpiece of all of their conditions. And I work with a lot of patients with obesity and losing weight. Today, I'm going to be talking about when people come off semaglutide or Ozempic or other GLP medications. So 2/3 of people who come off this medication regain their weight. It's a horrible thing, but it is the true thing of what really happens. This was found in the study of the Lancet and Endocrinology in 2022, where they found that when people come off of these medications, 2/3 of them gain back most of their weight. And this is going to be a problem because a lot of people discontinue the medication. A lot of people, somewhere around 50 to 60%, based on studies, come off the medication somewhere around a year. And a lot of them are gaining the weight back. The thing to go about with this is teaching people or telling people about this, because if you think that staying on this medication is viable, that may work for you, but it costs a lot of money. If you think that you're not gonna gain this weight back, you will. Based in studies, the majority of people will, and the majority of the weight that they lost comes back. Now, with these medications, people tend to lose around 15-20% of their weight. So for example, someone is 200 pounds. If they lost 20%, they lost 40 pounds. That means they're around 160. And so that's a pretty significant amount of weight. If you're 300 pounds, that means you're losing 60 pounds, and that puts you around 240. And if you gain most of that back, it's going to be a big downside, or, kind of a waste of time and money and effort and potential side effect. Now, we know there are a lot of benefits for being on these medications. There's cardiac benefits, anti-inflammatory benefits. We're seeing it in multiple specialties in multiple areas. So in primary care, I see joint pains better. I see reversal of heart disease. I see reversal or the improvement of all these parameters in diabetes. And I've even seen mood and depression improved. But when we come off these, the one I'm talking about today is the weight gain. And maybe that was the thing contributing to all these other problems, especially the depression, which that connection of inflammation and obesity can cause depression. And a lot of that's reversed. But what do we do when we come off? No one wants to regain this weight. And luckily, there was another study that came out that showed that most people will regain some weight, but it can be mitigated. At least the majority of it can be mitigated. So maybe you might gain back 5% back and not the full 20%. So the other study that came out was the Step 1 extension trial. That is where 2/3 of people regained the weight. Another study that shows what happens when you try to prevent the weight gain, it was the S-Lite trial. And this came out last year around March in the eClinical Medicine. This journal shows that you can prevent the regaining of weight through exercise. And a lot of these people that were in this study were not on the specific GLP medication that you might be on. It was on an older one, but we tend to think of it as a class effect, meaning all the medications in this class will act the same. And what they did was they had an exercise regime. And in the study, they had dietitians, they had trainers, they had scheduled and monitored workouts. So they were able to maintain or mitigate the weight gain. And so the possibility of this to mitigate is there, and this is the only real life type of studies we have. If you're coming off the medications, you're going to have to mix going back to what we normally should do in trying to be healthier and lighter and not obese, is to have lifestyle and dietary changes. And so if we're going to do the dietary changes, we're going to have to try eating more protein, because protein has the most satiety or type of satiation from any other macronutrient that you can get. So increasing proteins in the diet, naturally increasing the GLP in your body innately by increasing the vegetables. And so we can make GLP in our own body by the intestines. And this is usually done through the gut bacteria. This is done through increasing vegetables in the diet, and then getting support, coaching, a trainer, a dietitian, monitoring the calorie intake and the calorie expenditures. So I have other videos on this, on calorie intake and calorie output. I call that the Kiko method. And you'll find a link of that in the description below, along with links to the articles of the studies I'm mentioning here. So if you think that being on Ozempic is going to be your cure, you're wrong. It's not, especially when you come off of it. You have to mitigate these things. And one other way you can mitigate the regaining of the weight is that you slowly taper the medication. And so when you're working with a physician, these medications should be physician monitored. I don't like the fact that companies out there that are selling these medications with one visit, giving patients the medications unmonitored, and they may not be giving the advice that you need, especially understanding that you're likely going to regain the weight. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, especially if you're coming off semaglutide, tirzepatide, any of these GLP medications. If you're coming off, these are some of the things that you might want to do to prevent regaining of the weight. If you like this video, like, subscribe, share it with someone if you know if they're on these medications, and hopefully we can stop these things from happening. Until next time.